They told us that the Great Pyramid of Giza was built 5,000 years ago by Egyptian hands. But what if I told you that it was actually built by an ancient civilization that was more advanced than we are today? The proof is shockingly a cover-up by the Egyptian government and foreign interests for nearly 3,000 years. Recently, there has been a leaked discovery that proves all of this. In this video, I will share with you all of the evidence that proves this, and the world will never be the same ever again. Make sure to subscribe and comment your opinions below. We have been told the same simple story. We are told King Khufu built this giant monument as his tomb. History books say thousands of workers built it in just 20 years. They say these men only had copper chisels, ropes, and hard work. But there is a huge problem. Almost everything you learned in school about the pyramids is not based on facts. It is based on guesses. So what if the real story is being hidden on purpose? At the center of this mystery is one man, Dr. Zahi Hawass. For decades, Hawass has been the most powerful man in Egyptology. He controls every dig, every discovery, and every secret buried in the sand. He is the gatekeeper.
What do the archaeologists have wrong in these archaeologist books?
That the stones used in building the Great Pyramid came from Torah, and Torah is a 25-mile to the east.
When other scientists find something that does not fit the old story, Hawass shuts them down. He has been caught on camera shouting at researchers, telling them the gate is closed, and refusing to listen to new ideas. He once even said that all archaeology books are wrong, except for his own. Why is he fighting so hard to stop new research? Why close down a project the moment a big discovery is made? Is he protecting history? Or is he hiding a secret that would change everything? If there is nothing to hide, why is he so angry? Some people think he is protecting national pride, but others believe something much darker. They think Hawass is guarding a secret that would break history. They believe he knows that the pyramids were not built by a king with a copper chisel. They believe he is hiding proof of a lost high-tech civilization. Think about this. Why is the Giza plateau now surrounded by a giant concrete wall with high-tech security? Why are there reports of secret excavations happening at night when no tourists are allowed? While the world is told that the pyramids are just old tombs, the gatekeeper is making sure no one gets close enough to see the real evidence. But the evidence is there. It is hidden in plain sight. If you look at the stones, you can see marks that no copper tool could ever make. You can see holes drilled into the hardest rock on Earth with the precision of a laser. And yet, Hawass insists it was all done with simple rocks and hammers. He wants you to believe the simple story because the real story is too dangerous for the public to know. But we are not going to listen to the gatekeeper. Today, we are going past the wall. We are going to look at the evidence that Hawass has tried to bury for 30 years. And trust me, once you see what is inside the Great Pyramid, you will never look at a history book the same way again. Because the deeper you go, the more you realize that the Great Pyramid is not a tomb at all. It is a machine. And if it is a machine, we have to ask the most important question of all. Who really turned it on? Stay with me, because coming up next, we are going inside the pyramid to look for King Khufu. But I will give you a hint. We are not going to find him. We are going to find something much scarier. And that is why the elites do not want this information leaked to the public. The Great Pyramid. If the history books are right, this is the most famous tomb in the world. King Khufu supposedly spent his whole life building this just to hide his body and his gold. So you would expect to see his name everywhere, right? You would expect to see paintings of his life, his family, and his great battles. That is how every other Egyptian tomb works. But when you walk inside the Great Pyramid, you find something very strange. The walls are totally blank. There are no paintings, there are no carvings of gods, there are no hieroglyphs at all. It feels like an empty factory. Wait, it gets weirder. If you go into the king's chamber, you see a giant stone box. Dr. Zahi Hawass calls it the sarcophagus, the coffin. But it is just a plain, dark granite box. There is no lid, there are no decorations, and most importantly, there is no mummy. No body has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid, not one. When people ask Dr. Hawass where the king is, he says tomb robbers stole everything. But think about that. To get into the king's chamber, robbers would have had to break through tons of solid rock and giant stone blocks that were sealed from the inside. There is no evidence that robbers ever made it in before modern times. So, if no one broke in, and the king is not there, was it ever a tomb in the first place? If it was not a tomb, what was it? This is where the gatekeeper gets really nervous. An engineer named Christopher Dunn went inside the Great Pyramid carrying tools used in modern factories. He did not see the pyramid as a grave. He saw it as an engine, as a machine. He found something that blew his mind. The giant granite blocks in the king's chamber are rich in quartz crystals. That matters because quartz can turn vibrations into electricity. Dunn concluded the entire pyramid was built to vibrate. It was tuned like a giant musical instrument. He believes the pyramid used the power of the Nile River to create a steady heartbeat deep underground. That vibration would travel up through the pyramid, and the quartz in the walls would convert that motion into pure energy. This sounds like science fiction, right? Recent science is starting to prove it. In 2018, a team of researchers used high-tech scanners and found that the Great Pyramid can concentrate electromagnetic energy inside its chambers. It is acting like a giant lens for energy. When this news came out, did Dr. Hawass celebrate? No, he downplayed it. He steered the conversation back to tombs and simple farmers. He does not want the world to think of the pyramids as high-tech power plants. Because if the ancient Egyptians had electricity 5,000 years ago, it would upend our entire history. It would mean they were more advanced than we are today. Here is the gatekeeper's biggest secret. Inside the pyramid, there is a single mark of King Khufu's name. It is a small trace of red paint in a tiny room high above the king's chamber. Hawass uses this one tiny mark to claim the whole pyramid belongs to Khufu. Many experts think that paint is a fake. They suspect a British explorer painted it in the 1800s to claim credit. If that paint is fake, then Khufu may have nothing to do with the pyramid. And if Khufu did not build it, who did? The gatekeeper knows the answer is hidden in the stones. He knows the precision is so exact that even our best machines struggle to copy it. These stones are cut so flat you cannot even fit a human hair between them. Try doing that with a copper chisel. It is like trying to cut a diamond with a plastic knife. Hawass continues to block independent scientists from doing more tests on these stones. He says the case is closed. But the case is not closed, it is being covered up. Because if we admit the pyramid is a machine, we have to admit that someone or something was on Earth thousands of years ago. With technology we still do not understand. Do not go anywhere. If you think the empty tomb is a mystery, wait until you see what sits right next to it. We are going to look at the Great Sphinx. We will find evidence that Dr. Hawass is hiding a secret library under the paws of the Sphinx. The gatekeeper is guarding a door he says does not exist. We have scans that show he is lying. We have already seen that the Great Pyramid isn't a tomb, it's a machine. But every machine needs a way for the people using it to see what they are doing. This brings us to one of the biggest glitches in the official story. If you walk deep into the tunnels of the pyramid today, it is pitch black. It is so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face. Historians like Dr. Zahi Hawass tell us that the workers use torches or oil lamps to see. It sounds like a simple answer, but here is the problem. When you burn a torch in a stone room, it creates smoke. That smoke leaves black soot on the ceiling. If thousands of workers spent 20 years inside these tunnels with torches, the ceilings should be covered in thick black gunk. But when you look up at the ceilings of the Great Pyramid, they are perfectly clean. There is no soot, there are no smoke marks, nothing. This has left scientists scratching their heads for 100 years. How could they carve such perfect stones in total darkness? Some people say they used a system of mirrors to bounce sunlight from the desert into the tunnels. But anyone who has tried this knows that after 2 or 3 mirrors, the light becomes too weak to see anything. It simply does not work. So what is the secret? This is where the gatekeeper gets very defensive. Independent researchers have found something shocking in another temple called Dendera. On the walls, there are carvings that look exactly like giant light bulbs. They show long glass tubes with filaments inside that look like snakes connected to cables and what looks like a power battery. If the ancient builders had electric light, the no-soot mystery is solved. It would also explain how they were able to be so precise. But when you ask Dr. Zahi Hawass about the Dendera lights, he laughs. He calls it a fairy tale. He insists they were just symbols for lotus flowers. But if they were just flowers, why did the builders need such high-tech lighting to carve them in the first place? Why is the ceiling so clean? The gatekeeper does not want to talk about electricity because it ruins his entire timeline. If he admits they had light bulbs, he has to admit they had a power source. And if they had a power source, then the Great Pyramid is suddenly a giant power plant. But wait, there is a darker side to this cover-up. Whenever a modern team tries to test the energy of the pyramid, they are blocked. In the 1960s, a Nobel Prize-winning scientist named Luis Alvarez tried to use cosmic rays to find hidden rooms in the pyramid next to the Great Pyramid. He used high-tech computers to track the rays, but something went wrong. The data coming out of the pyramid was a mess. Alvarez called the results impossible, and he said they seemed to defy the laws of physics. Was Zahi Hawass allowed to keep testing? No, the project was eventually shut down. Years later, the Scan Pyramids team used even better technology and found a massive hidden void, a giant secret room above the main hallway. It is as big as a 747 airplane. The world went crazy. This was the biggest discovery in 100 years. But what did our gatekeeper do? Zahi Hawass went on television and told everyone to calm down. He said it was not a room, he called it a construction gap, and he basically told the world to stop looking. Why would an archaeologist tell people not to be excited about a hidden room? Think about it. If that room contains the technology used to light the pyramid, or the instruction manual for the machine, the gatekeeper's world would end. He is guarding a secret that is literally glowing in the dark, and he is doing everything he can to keep us in the shadows. But if you think the mystery inside the pyramid is big, wait until you step outside. Sitting right next to the machine is a giant monster made of stone. That monster is hiding a secret that Zahi Hawass has been trying to bury for 30 years. The Great Sphinx is the largest stone statue in the world. It has the body of a lion and the head of a man. For a long time, Dr. Zahi Hawass and his team told us it was built 4,500 years ago by King Khafra. They pointed to the face and said it looked just like the king. Then a scientist named Robert Schoch came along. He was not an archaeologist, he was a geologist, someone who studies rocks. He examined the body of the Sphinx and noticed something everyone else had missed. The Sphinx has deep, wavy vertical marks all over its sides. To a geologist, those marks are like a fingerprint. They are only made by one thing: thousands of years of heavy pouring rain. This is the smoking gun that challenges the official story. Here is why. Egypt has been a dry desert for over 5,000 years. It has not rained enough to cause that kind of damage since the end of the last ice age, over 12,000 years ago. That means the Sphinx was already standing there, getting rained on, for 7,000 years before King Khufu or King Khafra were even born. It means the pharaohs did not build the Sphinx. They found it buried in the sand, dug it out, and carved their own faces onto it. They were renovating an ancient masterpiece. When Robert Schoch presented this evidence, Dr. Zahi Hawass did not just disagree, he went to war. He called the science hallucinations, and he refused to let geologists do more tests. Because if the Sphinx is 12,000 years old, then the advanced civilization theory is no longer a theory. It is a fact, and that fact destroys the gatekeeper's power. But it gets even crazier. In the late 1990s, a team used ground-penetrating radar to look under the Sphinx. They found something that should not be there. Directly under the front left paw of the Sphinx, there is a perfectly rectangular chamber. It is man-made. It is about 25 feet underground. Many people believe this is the Hall of Records, a secret library filled with the high-tech knowledge of the lost civilization. It might hold the blueprints for the pyramids and the history of how the world was before the Ice Age ended. For years, Hawass denied this room existed. Then he was caught on video actually going down into a shaft under the Sphinx. But when he came back up, he told the cameras there was nothing there, only water and some empty tombs. But why should we believe him? There are reports from people working on the Giza plateau who say they have seen trucks moving specialized equipment to the Sphinx in the middle of the night. They have seen high security fences being put up around boring areas. Why use high-level security if there is nothing there? Hawass has been the one in charge of every single drill that has ever tried to reach that chamber. And every single time, the project is mysteriously stopped. He says he is protecting the monument, but we have to ask, is he protecting the stone, or is he protecting the secret? Imagine what would happen if we opened that room. If we found the Hall of Records, we would know the truth about our past. We would know that we are not the first advanced humans to live on Earth. We would realize that the people who lived 12,000 years ago knew things about energy and the universe that we are only just discovering today. The gatekeeper knows this. He knows that if that door is opened, he is no longer the expert. He would just be a man who spent 30 years telling the wrong story. He is guarding the forbidden library because the truth inside would take away his crown. But the desert is starting to give up its secrets. The watermarks on the Sphinx and the void in the pyramid are cracks in the gatekeeper's wall. In the next part, we are going to look at the circuit boards hidden inside the stones, because it turns out the coffin in the pyramid was not for a body, it was for something much more powerful. Every gatekeeper needs a list of enemies, and Dr. Zahi Hawass has a very long one. If you are a scientist or a researcher and you find something that disagrees with his official story, you do not just get a polite argument. You get banned, you get insulted, you get erased from history. To understand why the truth about the pyramids is still a secret, you have to look at the people the gatekeeper has tried to destroy. First, there is Robert Bovell. He is the man who came up with the Orion correlation theory. He realized that the 3 pyramids of Giza are not just random shapes. They are a perfect map of the stars in Orion's belt, but they only align perfectly with the sky as it looked in 10,500 BC. This was the smoking gun that showed the pyramids were planned thousands of years earlier than Hawass claims. How did Hawass react? He did not look at the stars. Instead, he went on a decades-long mission to discredit Bauval. In 2015, they were supposed to have a giant debate in a hotel near the pyramids. But the moment Hawass saw a slide of Bauval's research, he exploded in a rage. He started screaming, calling the research nonsense, and he literally stormed out of the room. Then there is Graham Hancock, a famous author who believes in a lost Ice Age civilization. Hancock has spent his life showing that ancient people were much smarter than we think. Hawass has called him a fake and a danger to Egypt. He has used his power to try to get Hancock's books banned from being sold near the pyramids. It is a classic move. If you cannot win the argument with facts, just silence the person speaking. But the gatekeeper does not just go after alternative researchers. He even goes after his own fellow scientists. Take Dr. Joanne Fletcher. She is a world-famous expert on mummies. In 2003, she found evidence that a mummy in a hidden tomb might actually be the famous Queen Nefertiti. It was a massive discovery. But Hawass was furious that she found it, and not him. He went on the news and said she was not an expert. He accused her of breaking the rules and banned her from ever working in Egypt again. Think about that. A brilliant scientist was kicked out of the country just for making a discovery that the gatekeeper did not control. Even religious leaders are not safe. He once got into a public fight with the Grand Mufti of Egypt because the Mufti suggested that an ancient prophet might have helped build the pyramids. Hawass told him to stick to religion and stay out of archaeology. It seems no one is allowed to have an opinion on Egypt's past unless it is Dr. Hawass's opinion. Why does he do this? Why spend 30 years attacking everyone from stargazers to mummy experts? Because every time someone like Robert Bauval or Joanne Fletcher finds a new piece of the puzzle, the gatekeeper's official story gets weaker. We have talked about the gatekeeper and the people he has silenced, but now we need to look at the hardest evidence of all, the rocks themselves. If you want to see where the official story truly falls apart, you have to look at the Serapeum of Saqqara. This is a place that Dr. Zahi Hawass almost never talks about in his TV shows. And once you see it, you will know why. The Serapeum is a giant underground tunnel system. Inside there are over 20 massive boxes made of solid granite. Each box weighs about 70 tons, and the lids weigh another 30 tons. That is 100 tons total. To give you an idea of how heavy that is, one box weighs as much as 2 Boeing 737 airplanes. Mainstream history says these were coffins for sacred bulls, but there were no bulls found inside. And here is the real kicker. These boxes are carved with such incredible precision that they look like they were made in a modern aerospace factory. The corners are perfect 90-degree angles. The surfaces are so flat that if you put a light on one side and a ruler on the other, no light leaks through. Engineer Christopher Dunn went down there with high-tech gauges. He found that the flat surfaces of these boxes are accurate to within 1/10,000th of an inch. You cannot do that with a rock and a copper chisel. You cannot even do that by hand today. You need computer-controlled machines to achieve that level of perfection. But how did the ancient farmers get these 100-ton boxes down into narrow, dark tunnels that are barely wider than the boxes themselves? There is no room for 500 men to pull ropes. There is no room for wooden rollers. It is an engineering nightmare that we could not even do easily today. When you ask the gatekeeper how they did it, he gives the same old answer: hard work and many people. He refuses to admit that the precision of these boxes proves that the builders had power tools. But it's not just the Serapeum. Look at the drills found at Giza. Archaeologists have found granite stones with perfect circular holes drilled right through them. When engineers examine those holes, they see something impossible. The spiral marks left by the drill show that it was cutting into the granite 500 times faster than our best modern diamond drills can cut today. This means the ancient builders were not just using tools, they were using tools that are better than ours. So where did this technology go? Why is it missing? And why does Zahi Hawass fight so hard to hide it? Some researchers believe the technology was not missing, it was taken. They believe that when the Ice Age ended and the Great Floods came, the civilization that built these things was destroyed. Hawass knows that if he admits the Serapeum boxes were made by machines, He has to admit there was an advanced ancient civilization. He has to admit that everything we know about the Stone Age is wrong. Instead, he keeps the sacred bull story alive. He keeps the copper chisel story in the textbooks. He keeps the doors to the most mysterious parts of the Serapeum locked to the public. But we have seen the stones, we have seen the drill marks, and we know that a man who shouts at the stars is usually a man who is afraid of the light. We have seen impossible stones. We have seen the people the gatekeeper has tried to silence. But now we have to look at what is happening right now, behind the high security fences of the Giza plateau. While Dr. Zahi Hawass tells the public there is nothing left to find, the evidence says he is keeping the biggest discovery of all for himself and a few powerful people. Back in the 1970s and 1980s, something very strange happened. The United States government, specifically groups linked to the military and intelligence agencies, started showing an extreme interest in the Great Pyramid. They did not send historians, they sent experts in high-tech sensors and radio waves. One of these groups was SRI International, a massive research lab that worked on top-secret projects for the Pentagon. Why would the United States military care about an old tomb? The answer is the field. Researchers found that the Great Pyramid acts like a giant antenna. It can catch and focus electromagnetic waves from the earth and the sky. This is when the gatekeeper really stepped up his game. Hawass became the bridge between the Egyptian government and these mysterious foreign research teams. In 1997, something even more suspicious happened. People living near the Giza plateau reported seeing heavy machinery moving toward the Sphinx in the middle of the night. They were not official archaeology trucks. They were unmarked. At the same time, Hawass was suddenly able to build a giant concrete wall around the entire plateau. He said it was to protect tourists, but the wall has high-tech cameras and sensors that point inward, as if they are trying to keep people from seeing what is being dug up. Remember the Hall of Records under the Sphinx's paw? In 1998, a team led by Hawass drilled a hole into that area, but instead of showing the world what was down there on live TV, they went silent. A few years later, a video leaked. It showed Hawass climbing down into a deep dark shaft under the Sphinx that led to a third level deep underground. This area was filled with water and had a massive granite box in the center. Hawass called it the Tomb of Osiris, but he claimed it was empty. Independent researchers are not so sure. They believe that Hawass and his shadow partners have already entered the Hall of Records. They believe they found ancient technology, maybe even blueprints for free energy or advanced physics, and they are keeping it a secret. Whenever a new scanning team, like the Scan Pyramids group, in 2017, finds a big void or a hidden room, Hawass is the first person on the news to say it is not a discovery. He blocks them from drilling. He even tried to discredit the Morn scanning technology itself, the same technology we use to look inside volcanoes and nuclear reactors. He said it does not work on stone, but scientists all over the world knew he was lying. So what is the final revelation? What is the secret that Dr. Zahi Hawass is so afraid of? It is not just a hidden room or a lost library. It is the realization that we are a species with amnesia. Everything the gatekeeper has told us for 30 years is designed to make us feel small. He wants us to believe that we started as simple cavemen, that we slowly learned to farm, and that we built the pyramids with rocks and sticks because we were obsessed with death. This story keeps us in the dark. It makes us think that our current world is the best and most advanced there has ever been. But the pyramids tell a different story. They tell us that 12,000 years ago, there was a civilization that understood the earth better than we do. They understood energy, gravity, and the stars. They built the Giza plateau as a time capsule. They knew that a global disaster was coming, a great flood or a comet strike, and they wanted to leave a message that would survive for 10,000 years. The gatekeeper knows that if this truth comes out, the entire system of the world changes. Our religion, our science, and our energy companies would all have to answer for why they kept us primitive for so long. But Zahi Hawass is losing his grip. In recent years, he has lost some of his most powerful titles. More and more people are using the internet to share evidence he tried to ban. We have satellite photos showing lost cities in the desert. We have radar scans showing tunnels under the Sphinx. We have chemical tests showing the stones were poured like high-tech concrete. The gate is no longer closed, it is cracking. The Great Pyramid is sitting there, waiting for us to figure it out. It is a giant machine, a map of the stars, and a mirror of the earth. It is a wake-up call from our ancestors. They are telling us that we have been here before. We have been high-tech before, and we have been reset before. Zahi Hawass might be the gatekeeper of this story, but he is also a sign of the end. He is the last guard of an old broken history. Every time he shouts no or says I closed it, he is actually showing us exactly where the truth is hidden. He is pointing the way by trying to block the path. The only question left is, are you ready to handle the truth? Or would you rather stay on the other side of the gate? Because once you see what is really down there, there is no going back to the simple story. History is not what they told you, it is what they tried to hide. And the gatekeeper's time is running out. If you think the secrets end at the Great Pyramid, you are wrong. Do not look away. Click the next video on the screen now and begin this rabbit hole with me.